So welcome everybody who is here for our 5-star builder experiences. Tony, you got my share screen enabled. Thank you for doing that. And really, it's exciting to kind of be here. Doing these virtual events has really opened things up for us. It puts a lot of people in contact with us to talk about things that they may not talk about otherwise. Like, we've had some pretty interesting builder experiences so far this year, hey? You know, one of the things that I recall is just how the builder market has changed a little bit. Like how earlier this year, we started to see a lot of different things shuffle after coming out of COVID. A lot of people were uncertain as to what was going to happen next, what future house prices would be. Like, even now, some people are thinking, okay, well, do I want to make a commitment in 2020 for a build that's not going to be completed into 2021? But real estate right now is saying otherwise. We're going through this incredible rally period here. But looking back at our builder experiences, man, even in the last 6 months, there's been a lot of notable builder experiences. Like, Tony, you've seen a lot of stuff out there. Like, we haven't seen everything, but what have you seen recently that really kind of hit a key with you?
I think the biggest thing was things that you would just expect to be included, like drawers in your kitchen, that weren't. And we had to find this out by actually asking to go to the design studio, and just that would be a deal breaker to most families. I think most families would want drawers in their kitchen, and you'd have to pay extra just for the standard drawers above the cabinets, not even just the pot drawers.
Yeah, and that's something that wasn't really made clear, and something that we didn't see consistent across the board, right? So of all the builds that you've participated in, when it comes to how people were, how explanations were made to you as to what was included in what specification, like, Tony, don't you have like some crazy spreadsheet that you put all this stuff into?
I do. Yeah, trying to find out, what our clients are looking for, and then we can basically go and find that for multiple builders and see what the cost comparison would be, and then decide which builder would offer the best house, the best price.
Wow. So after all of that, and after narrowing it down, the builder that won, that was able to offer the most for the least, didn't necessarily have everything that you would want. Like, what you were saying is that experience, it kind of felt like you bought a car and they were like, so you think you're going to want to buy some tires? And you were like, man, I really thought that that was going to be the case. And that seemed to be the case when it comes to other things. So getting that leveled out was a big deal. And then also, when you guys found that out, were you already committed to that build, like no way out?
We did have conditions on that for financing. So we were kind of feeling out the rest of that process through the design studio, but we were able to kind of negotiate that back in as per what we thought we were getting originally.
Wow, that's really a neat insight, because I'm not sure everybody would see that the same way. I think some people would just feel guilty at that point. You know, there's always a difference between standing there on your own or standing there with an expert. And I think a lot of people on their own would be in that design center. They've already told all their friends that they're building, and finally this is going to be like a couple $1,000, right? And they would just be like, well, I guess it's one of those build things. Ha ha ha! Nervous laughter. Move on. Shuffle away. Right. So, Doro, I know that when we were talking about builds, you were talking even about your own experiences. Like, after learning as much as you do being a realtor, it really feels different.
It does feel different. I would definitely not do the same mistake again, going out there without a realtor. Just for example, we had a home inspection on our new build 9 months after we moved into the new build. And the list of findings was ridiculous. So knowing what I know now, I would definitely say get a home inspection.
So that's interesting. So, because a lot of people, they really don't feel like a home inspection might be necessary. Like, obviously you're buying something brand new. So like, think people have checked this over, like the tradespeople have done their work, and then there's also building inspectors. So there's a couple of different checks and balances. But even after that, you really feel as though there was a lot of places that you could have known about before you lived there.
Yes, of course. For us, it was very new. We went with the first builder we looked at, and it didn't cross our mind to ask for assistance, which I think a realtor can do that, and they have your back.
Because that wouldn't have been the same, like based on your experience, Tony, if you were approaching a builder, do we ever really approach just one?
Never.
And the idea is because a lot of people don't understand that these builders are representations of quality. So each builder is going to represent a team of people, not all of which work for them directly, but many of which work with them often. And they're going to say, hey, this is what you're paying for. This is what you get. They make designs. But after that, there's a whole team of people, just like there is here, just like there is everywhere, looking to kind of deliver an outcome. And I think in most cases, like if I owned a builder, I'd want that builder to feel great. I'd want the people that built with that house to really feel as though they got like a personal milestone. Because often these properties last for 100 years, right? Like we've sold some centurions. So when it comes down to those aspects, we would want that. The builder wants that, but it's not an easy thing to achieve. There's a lot of people involved in building a house. And so at the end, what your experience was, is it really would support being that. And we've seen that as well. Like I know Kim, we're talking like very recently, like within the last few weeks, you were out in the marketplace. And talk to me a little bit about the setup here. Like you were out with some clients buying, they had already bought a brand new build quite a while ago, right?
Yeah, I was just out with them, and again, it was a brand new build, and we brought in an inspector, and then going through the inspection, and he filled the master tub up, and then went and did the infrared, and seen a whole bunch of water escaping from there, and yeah, it collapsed to the roof, and
Wait a second. Hold on one second. Are we
I've never seen anything
saying
like that.
like this? Is this what we're talking about?
No, we can't see that.
Yeah.
Oh, you guys can't see it? Well, I'm hoping that that came through on the live stream. You got, oh, you know what? I'm going to have to do this again. So you could hear the water there, right? But you couldn't see what I was sharing because I'm sharing, I believe I might be sharing restricted to the one window. So let me change this out a little bit. I'm going to flip back to us. I'm going to use my mad zoom skills. And I really should leave this to Tony. Let's be honest. And let's move over to another shared screen. Now, can you guys see what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, so this is at your home inspection. So what you were saying is you guys were upstairs in the ensuite bathroom to a very nice brand new build. And while you were up there, they were filling the ensuite tub, that big soaker tub, as part of a regular home inspection because they test everything. They would turn on every water system. And the reason that they do that is because you may not do that right away, right? And so immediately when they turned on the ensuite, what was the first thing that was noticed? Do you know? Like,
Yeah, it wasn't
they got
filling,
infrared.
it wasn't quite filling quite as fast as it should have. So it kind of alarmed the inspector to go and check, the walls in the basement, and then we went out to the garage, and we noticed that, well, with his infrared camera, we could just see the water pouring out, and then it came through.
So immediately he's going to dart upstairs and turn off that water source, right? Like he probably had turned it off already. And then as you're standing there with your camera and the inspector's running back upstairs to get that all taken care of.
Yeah, this took a little bit because it filled up the whole ceiling there, and then I just went back out.
Oh, and then it went forward, right?
Yeah.
So the homeowners are standing there with you.
Yeah.
Man. All right, so there's one thing I'm really thankful for. This was into an empty garage at a home inspection. You know when I would be filling up my soaker tub? Probably right after I moved. And that would mean that this garage isn't going to be empty. This garage is going to be full of my stuff. Right? That would be brutal. So even though I'm covered, this probably isn't going to come out of my pocket. It is still going to affect my experience. So once that was all done and you went back and you reviewed the home inspection to this build, what did they reveal was the problem with this?
It was actually just that the drain, the long drain, there was a piece that came off. It wasn't quite connected. It was actually pretty, pretty simple little piece that wasn't connected properly that caused that whole thousands of dollars of damage.
Wow. So it was almost like a cross-threaded plumbing point,
Yeah.
and it just allowed this to come unfit, and then all of a sudden, and it could just be one joint. We're talking about thousands of components when we're talking about a brand new build or any house, right? But the one thing that, we really have to draw back to is most houses have a proven history. Like somebody's been living there every day in most cases. So really, we would know a lot more about the history of performance when it comes to that house. But with these new houses, until everything is checked, nobody really knows. Well, thank you guys so much. I really appreciate that you sharing your experiences on what we see out in the marketplace, because we don't see everything, but we all deal with quite a few different construction clients throughout the year. And I think more people should know that those people are available to them. We are going to ask the teammates to step out here, because if you are watching this right now, if you're watching this live stream and you're like, what? Did they just say I could go to there and I can bring a realtor to help me in a show home? I can bring a realtor to help understand what's happening, explain things to me, negotiate, check market prices? That's what we're talking about. So if you are thinking about engaging the build market, if you are like, man, I just dream of those brand new, never lived in homes, then the time is now. Why don't you talk to us about your situation? All of our teammates are going to step off the live stream right now, and I'm going to bring in some other local experts. We're going to talk about mortgages next, and you can engage any of the people here to get that started. So let us move over. Tony, you have a guest in the waiting room.
I do.
Why don't you let him
Darren
in here?
Sharko from, you have to let him in actually, because you have the host on here, but Darren
Okay,
from
I gotcha.
RBC is ready to go.
That's fantastic. I'm all set now. I can see what's going on. Let's let Darren in and talk a little bit about him. See you in a little bit, you guys. All right. As Darren gets connected here, let me introduce you to Mr. Darren Sharko. So I've known Darren for a long time, and Darren has been an RBC mortgage specialist since 2003. So man, that's 17 years of experience and just a ton of different people that you've served over time. I know that the volume is something that's also really high. Darren, I can get you, I can hear your audio, but I cannot see your video. Do you mind popping on that video?
Yeah, you bet. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you great. So let me keep it rolling here. So you've been working in mortgages with RBC since 2003. I can see you now, the RBC logo behind you. We're going to switch over the stream here. Darren, you've been working in RBC mortgages since 2003. Top 10% in mortgage business performance in Canada. So Canadian ranked 3 times, and an average of 40 million. So last time I checked, the average mortgage person does about 8 million a year. Is that still true?
Yeah, they might do maybe a little more, somewhere between 10 and 20, but I definitely do a high volume, and I've got a really great support staff, administrative staff as well to help me with the volumes, and I always prioritize client service, so that kind of leads my way in terms of the volume, that's for sure.
So what are you going to do when you get to $1 billion? Because you got to be like, you're past $500 million in mortgages lended out, right?
Yeah, I think it was close to 680 million. Man, when I hit the billion, I think I got a good bottle of Dom Perignon at home that I'm waiting for a special celebration, and that just might be the one that cracks it open.
Yeah. Well, that's an incredible amount of experience. And you're also working with the largest mortgage holder in Canada, RBC Royal Bank. And so obviously you guys are very involved when it comes to home construction for Canadians in general. I know that RBC also really understands construction from both sides. So you guys would have business clients that deal in building property, and you would also be helping families build property. And so in your experience in doing that, talk us a little bit through it. So I know that there's a couple of different types of mortgages that we associate with building.
Yeah, absolutely, Taylor. So it's pretty straightforward. When it comes to construction mortgages, there's two different types. One's called a completion mortgage, and another's called a draw mortgage. And don't get too intimidated or confused with the two different ones, but I'll just give you a quick rundown on how they work. So the completion mortgage is real straightforward. Basically, what happens is, you go in with your trusted realtor, Taylor and team, and you make an offer to purchase on a home. What ends up happening is we prepare the financing when you make the offer. Usually you got about 10 days or so to firm up the financing. So we'll give a firm, when we approve that deal, we'll give a firm unconditional approval, so that way the financing's in place. We'll actually do an appraisal on the property, so we know what the as if complete value is gonna at least be when you take possession of it. But the big thing on the completion mortgage is that no money advances until the actual you take possession of the property. So sometimes it takes 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, whatever. When you get the keys, that's when the mortgage advances, and that's when you start paying on it. So that's how a completion mortgage works. Another great benefit with RBC is with most of the large builders, we've got rate holds 6 months, 9 months, 12 months. So we give a rate hold right up front. And then what we do is when you get usually the builders will give you a 30-day possession confirmation notice. And then when we get that, we revisit the rates at that time as well. So we give you a rate hold at the very beginning, and then 12 months later, you get your 30-day possession notice. We'll revisit to see if the rates a year from now, or whenever your possession date is going to be, is if they've gone up or if they've gone down. If they've gone up, then we give you the rate hold you got when you first did the mortgage at the very beginning, 12 months before the build rate when you first negotiated things. But if they've gone down, then what we do is we give you the going rate at that time if they've decreased. So you kind of get the best of both worlds. So that's the completion mortgage. Bottom line, you go in, you make an offer, we get you the approval, they build, and we advance at the end of it when everything's completed. The other option is something called a draw mortgage. Don't get intimidated by them. They're super straightforward. And all that happens basically is when you build a house, what happens is we release money in stages. So the builder will often dig the hole, get the foundation poured, and then but the builder will contact the bank and say, okay, we're at as an example lockup stage. And then what we do is the bank will send an inspector, an appraiser, to confirm exactly how far they are along, and we'll release the appropriate amount of money based on how much they've completed on that project. So sometimes there's 1 draw, 2 draws, or sometimes it can go up to 5 draws. But bottom line is in a draw mortgage, mortgage gets advanced in stages as the house gets built. We never want to advance too much money, because if they're 50% on the home, we don't want to advance 70% of the money, because if 70% of the money is advanced and then something crazy happens, and the house doesn't get built or something like that, at the end of the day, we only advance whatever's been completed. So bottom line,
That's great.
Draw mortgage, completion mortgage.
Yeah, that's great information. So basically what I'm hearing from you is that you would find a builder, and what we know from our experience is normally the builder is going to have requests for you as to whether or not they could accommodate a draw or a completion mortgage. So what we know is that the larger builders tend to lean towards completion mortgages.
We do.
And sometimes the more custom or higher price stuff ends up leaning towards draw mortgages. But really what most clients need to understand is that you guys can sit back, put it in neutral, and kind of hear like Snoopy's teacher's voice. Wah, 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 wah.
Yeah.
Because look how much Darren knows about this stuff. He's like, you don't have to worry about this. You come and see me, and I'm going to iron it out. Even to the point with what you were outlining there is, as they do a draw construction, RBC isn't going to mess around with hundreds of thousands of dollars. They're going to make sure that there's inspectors on site so that the money is trickling in at the same speed as the property is being completed. That's great accountability. And that's also a service that some people I don't think understand. They don't really know that it's not just like a duffel bag, right? Like you guys aren't just like, hey, how's the build going? Awesome, here you go.
Yeah.
There's a lot more going on with that. Now, the other thing that you were touching on was rates now versus rates later. Because what we know is normally what people hear in the marketplace, like, hey, I can get this, hey, I can get that. The stuff you're hearing about is normally the kind of bottom of the barrel stuff as far as product, but more so, what's more important about that is it's short-term stuff, like only good for 90 days. And there aren't that many lenders that would even make you a 12-month promise. Like
That's
when
true.
we talk to major builders, especially if you're going to build something big, if you're building like the 2 comma project, in that case, there's really not many people that would assume that much risk. Like RBC is one of the outstanding brands in that category.
Yeah, that's for sure, Taylor. It works out pretty good with regards to the rates. I gotta say, it does change a little bit whether it be completion or drawn, and you're right. Like the rates are always cheaper on a quick possession. So, but that's why RBC does 2 things. We'll guarantee the rate for 12 months. The rate will be a little bit higher. There's no doubt because could be a lot of fluctuation in the market. But once you know your possession date, you're within 120 days. That's when I can quote the absolute maximum rate discount. So most of the time, to tell you the truth, if the rates haven't started to increase, then that's when the rubber really meets the road, and we really get the best rate at that time.
You're a pretty popular guy right now. Like I know that a lot of the stuff that you do is build stuff, right?
Yeah,
and
I
also know that you set like you've been in mortgages for 17 years, and you set a career record in July.
Yes, I certainly did.
So a lot of that would have been closing from last year. And am I right? These people are calling you back. You probably getting them set up like 60 days out from when they're getting their notice of possession, because that's how it takes place.
Yeah.
And right now, all of these people in July, how excited were they when you were saying, hey guys, I know we signed up for this.
Yeah.
Right? And now, holy crap, look what happened.
I know. Yeah, it's so true. The rates is so interesting with the rates right now, and what an incredible time to get into real estate. The rates currently are at a Canadian historic low. They've never been lower ever in Canada in the history they've been tracking rates. So this is rock bottom basically. So you're absolutely
it's
right.
Like less than $50 a month for $10,000 bucks. It is like less than $500 a month for $100,000. It is less than $5,000 a month for $1 million bucks.
It's so true. The money is so cheap right now in terms of the interest rates. Most of the stuff's below 2% for quick close stuff, under 120 days. It's really, really aggressive, and it's super exciting, I gotta say. And you're absolutely right. Like, the clients that made an offer on a build that was taking 12 months out, if that happened last year, the rates were somewhere around 2.5–3%. Suddenly they get their possession date, confirmation. They call me in July, and you're right. In July, I hit a personal record. I did over $10 million in mortgages is funded on just that 1 month. Incredible. When March and April, I didn't know if I'd have any mortgages advancing because no one was out, looking for homes basically. Yeah. But bottom line, people were calling me up, and I had their rates held at 2.5%, and they were like, okay, we're ready to take possession of our house now. And I'm like, well, I got good news for you, and this is what the rates are right now. So we dish the rate hold of the 2.5%, and we get them to where they currently are right now, below 2%. So it just puts money back in the client's pocket, which is a win for everyone for sure.
Okay, I got a question for you as far as like those people that are like, holy crap, what they're talking about is super interesting. I didn't know money was that cheap. I didn't know that I could build right now. I didn't know this guy Darren could just take me through it all, right?
Yeah.
How fast is fast? Like if I was right now, if I knew everything I needed to know to get a mortgage, and I was like in a total cookie cutter situation where I didn't have any variations, how fast could you get me a pre-approval?
It's super quick, Taylor. Like
I heard that you could do it in under a couple of minutes.
Well, basically,
is it true that right now we could post a link in our group that somebody could go through and what is the timeline of that pre-approval tracker?
60 seconds is how fast you can get an immediate pre-approval.
You can get an immediate pre-approval in 60 seconds. And if they
60
come in
seconds.
through your link, they're actually going to come through direct to you. They're not going to be farmed out to some online
Nope.
system or anything else like that.
They come
You're going to be
direct
talking to
me.
Darren
They'll go-
Sharko right in Edmonton right now. He could talk to you about your next build. He could talk to you about a build you have coming up. Could be that you didn't use an awesome lender, but there's a lot of question marks right now. And you were already partway into waiting for a build to be completed. I think that you should call Darren anyway, because you could be dealing in okay and you could go all the way to awesome. So thank
That's
you so
awesome.
much for giving us that information. We really appreciate you coming in to meet with us today. We're going to have all Darren's contact information along with his contest. Darren brought us a Home Depot gift card that we are raffling off here. In the comments section, you have to be in the event to do it. While you're on Facebook, please like and subscribe. Darren, thank you so much for coming in. I hope the rest of your night is awesome.
Awesome, Taylor. Appreciate it. Thanks. Take care, everybody.
All right, so we are talking about builds. This is the 5-star builder experience from Hack & Company at Remax River City. And really, I think that a lot of what we were trying to do here, a lot of the buzz when it came to this, was about this thing. Look at this thing. This thing is cool. We gave away this Kindle Fire HD8. And you know what? This actually was won by Jessica Anderson, and she owns a 2020 home. Jessica Anderson is a Hack & Company client living is building in as we speak. What a fitting win for this. That's fantastic. 5-star builder experiences, how to decode show homes and avoid heartache. We're going to keep bringing in guests here. The next person that we have is I love this contrast. So we just talked to Darren from RBC, and now we are going to talk to Crystal Mancher from Flair. Crystal's gonna get her audio and video set up and be coming in here right now. But talking about Crystal, really, I think that one of the things that we really have to talk about first is client care. The way that she talks to people is fantastic. She really makes this stuff easy to understand, and that's something that is key to making good decisions for clients, right? Crystal, I think that you are now in here, and we are just looking for audio and video, and there she comes. So, Crystal, you are a mortgage broker and owner of Flair Mortgage Group, local to Sherwood Park and Edmonton. And you have a team that helps people all across Canada with mortgage financing, mainly focusing on buying and refinancing, but of course, building new homes. So you have over 18 years of experience in the industry. And the reason that I really like this contrast is we were just talking to a mortgage specialist. I know that you were sitting in our online waiting room here, but also probably tuning in to see what's up, because I know you're super curious, but really you've got just a ton of options. Like we were talking a little bit about types of mortgages, and with your lender group, because you represent quite a few lenders, if somebody was dealing in a completion mortgage, how many options do you really have?
You know what? We've got more than 20 options if somebody's doing a completion mortgage. So there's so much out there available to consumers. Yeah.
That's amazing. That's a lot of different options. So when somebody comes to you, let's say that they're like uncertain. They're just like, Crystal, I think that what people normally tell me is some variation of, hey, Mr. Realtor, get me the best juice for squeeze, right? Like they don't just say, get me the cheapest thing, because we don't want to drive 3-wheeled cars, right? But they say, what's the best value?
Yeah.
So you probably see a ton of people building right now. What do you think is the biggest difference between products? Like, what do you think is, if I was somebody who's super price sensitive, what am I going to lose versus the more robust builder packages that you see?
Yeah, I think completion mortgage a completion build has a really competitive edge, because especially now, right, we're in this decreasing rate market. Rates can be held typically for 120 days with the lenders that can do completion mortgages. But we also have an option up to 18 months with one lender. Now, of course, you're not going to get the under 2% to have a mortgage rate held for that long. But what we do is we keep an eye on the interest rates. And when we're close to possession, so in that 120-day period prior to possession date, we reshop the market. And I mean, we try to keep the clients with the same lender, because at the end of the day, there's been an underwriter and a financial institution who have set those funds aside for that client. And our relationship also with that lender, you know, could be impacted if we're constantly getting rate holds and approvals, but not funding deals. So we try to keep it with the same lender, but if there's a better rate out there, the great thing about having options by dealing with a mortgage broker is we can move it if needed.
That's interesting. So what you're saying is as much as I was like, hey, what's the difference between you? You're saying that there's a piece in the puzzle for everybody. So the mortgage lender that ends up offering you the long term still is accountable to you as their representative. So Crystal's out there in the marketplace knowing what's going on. And if that mortgage lender that's offering the long rate hold has moved in a direction where they would no longer offer her to move into a more competitive position, then she can say, hey, listen, I really appreciate this, but you have to understand our position, right? And that's something that good relationships in business, a lot of people think that they're just complementary, but they're in cases they're accountable and they're adversarial, and that's something that's important when you're in your position, right? So when you have people coming to you that are looking for these mortgages with these long rate holds, when do they actually need their down payment?
You know what? So that is quite builder specific, because some builders need just 5% to start build, but some want more skin in the game up front. Some want 10, 15, 20, but that's where you guys can come in too and help negotiate that with the clients. One thing to be very mindful of though on that completion mortgage, if we are looking at switching lenders, every time we do that, essentially that consumer, that borrower is requalifying for a mortgage, because that new lender now needs to see their credit, see their income, see their down payment.
So it would have to make sense to move from one to the other.
Yeah. I kind of use the terms like for better or for worse, right? If you can, if your financial picture has changed for the better, we can shop the market, no problem. But if maybe there's something happened with your, you know, financial situation,
that's a neat protection.
You don't want to. Yeah. What's that?
What you're saying is that you're not going to leave safety.
Exactly.
Because you know what's going on. That's an interesting perspective. So from what my experience is that most builders want the numbers to match. And what they mean by that is they're saying, hey, if you're buying a $500,000 house, you are going to need, let's say that they're one of those 5% ones, because up to 500,000, you can do that, right?
Yep.
And so they're going to say that we want $25,000 in our hand right now, and a letter from Crystal saying that she's good for the other 475. Right. And I've been to her house. She's good for it. She keeps it in the basement. I mean, just kidding.
Yeah, right.
But when it comes down to it, those numbers need to match, and then you're okay to go. So even if you want to put more down later, you could get a better mortgage approval that allows us to keep more of your money in your pocket and then adjust that downwards later. Because you can go down easier than you can go up, right?
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. You can make changes and put more down closer to. Some other options that, you know, you can think about if you're needing to qualify for both properties. Say you want to enter into this contract, but you haven't sold your existing home yet. We do that all the time with people. So what we
see that too. They don't want to move twice.
No, exactly.
Like, where do you go from now until when your home is ready?
Yeah. So use rental income to offset, right? I don't know if this was talked about earlier, but was it?
No, so what you're talking about is covering yourself for that negative outcome. So what you want is to move once. So how we normally set it up, because the majority of families that we serve are going to sell with us and buy with us. So what we're going to do is we're going to negotiate terms with the builder, and then we're sending the stuff over to you, and then you're getting that long rate hold on, and we're in a position where right now, if we were building, like it's October right now, we're probably talking about somebody really getting possession close to the school break, right? This is why it's entering into builder prime time. And what we would want is what you're mentioning. So we want to do that. And so what the lender says is, okay, the only way we'd be okay with that is if you weren't able to sell your house, like maybe you didn't pick the highest rated and reviewed team on rankmyagent.com. Maybe you went somewhere else. And if it didn't sell, we need to show that you're going to be okay. So now what you have to do is go into this like basically risk analysis in order for the bank to accept your argument. So you're going to say, hey, if they take possession of that other house, they could rent this property for roughly this amount. And then that's going to be taken into consideration, but only by certain lenders, hey?
Yeah, every lender has their own way of calculating that rental offset. So we have our favorites for sure.
So you know
Yeah.
exactly where to go when you're going to get a multi-property strategy. So think of all the things that, like, these are the things that I really want. I want the average family to do better at business.
Mm-hmm.
I want the average family to get their deliverables done. And I really think that they're trying to deliver 18 summers. Do you agree?
Yeah.
They're trying to deliver 18 summer experiences to those kids.
Yep.
So through poor form, you can end up losing a lot of opportunities that contribute to that outcome. You can end up being in a circumstance where you don't get to go on that vacation. You don't get to have that experience because family business isn't managed well. So in this case, we need to make sure that you guys come out on top, because we're coming out of this year of uncertainty. So let's say things wiggle instead of waggle. How are you going to make it work? So you're going to get a rental offset to show that it's okay, because that also means that the math would work.
Right.
That with this income and that rental income, this family gets to keep on ticking, you know?
100%. It's all about having that backup plan.
And that's why we work so well together, is because that's what we're looking for too. We are okay. We got pretty wide shoulders here. And when you say, hey, we got our 60-day notice, we need to get our house sold, we're like, not a problem. The market operates at 2 months and we get her done in 1.
Nice.
Okay. So in that case, we're going to try to do the best we can, because what we ideally want and what we actually often do is match possession dates. So we will list their property, run it 30 days on the market, get a 60-day possession or a 45 possession with a 60-day timeline. And then we're calling you guys for a bridge loan. And we're saying, hey, listen, can you get us all the drops of that equity so we can really top off this down payment and make sure that this project lands exactly like we want? There's no extra financing. There's no extra penalties. It's all collapsible. You guys are in the new house like accordion style, right?
100%. Yeah.
So a lot of people don't understand that in order to deliver that experience, it has to start with better measurement in the beginning.
Yeah.
At the time that you're thinking about doing that, imagine sitting down right now, like if you were the third person in this room. You're sitting down with Crystal, talking to her about your family's budget. You're sitting down with a member of our team talking about nobody has big floating numbers over their house. So how do you understand if it all works? Well, we're going to give you market value, but really it is Crystal who is going to quarterback your financial experience.
That's
so
right.
We really appreciate you taking care of our clients that way. What would you want? Like, I understand that you're just about to take possession of a house. You got to be like a good way through now, right?
Yeah, we are. We're about.
So you're living this experience right now.
I'm living it. Not only expert on mortgages, but I am right in the middle of it.
Okay, so you decided to make this decision, like so many people that are going to watch this, and now you're moving through that. Now, let's say that you could like pick up the phone to Crystal of 9 months ago, and say, hey, listen, now that you're in it, this is what I want you to know. Is there anything that you could tell our audience that's a little bit more about
Love that question. Yeah. Yes, thank you for asking that. I would go back and I would make sure that more was negotiated up front in the initial purchase contract. There are so many expenses when you're building a home, and I think people don't realize all the options that there are. And I mean, unless you've been through it before, it is certainly eye-opening. I wish that's one thing I would have known, is maybe to negotiate more up front in the price.
Well, we haven't seen it all, but we definitely have seen some distance, right? And I think that what most people should know more about is, I'm going to say something that's probably going to be a pretty significant statement. After most properties trade 3 times, nobody knows who built them. So obviously, if it affected the resale, we'd all know. I work in an office with 150 of the top producing realtors in Edmonton at RE/MAX River City. And if there was a builder that was known consistently for poor quality, we would all know. And we don't. So really, when you take a look at two home builders that are representative of construction companies, could you not take a very similar build design and give it to each of them and have them build something that passes all those checks and balances, passes all those things like the inspections from the city? Like, obviously the resale perspective that I just shared right now is proving that that the checks and balances work. The permit process, the inspections from the lenders, the inspections from the municipality, home inspections coming through. Like, if you take care of this from start to finish, if you work with people that know how, you're not even going to need to learn all this stuff. And then you can get that same experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's an interesting perspective there. Is there anything else that you wanted to share?
Make sure you're dealing with experienced people, and just people who've been in the industry a long time and have been through it themselves. I think that goes a long way. Yeah.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. So thank you so much for coming in and chatting with us a little bit today. Crystal's going to be around. If anybody wants to talk about their situation, they can easily reach her. And we really appreciate that that you also donated a nice little night out. You got a $25 gift certificate to Joey's and wine and some stemless wine glasses. We really appreciate that. We are going to have that in the in our contests, and also links for you to contact Crystal, because she's in this experience. She knows a lot about what it takes to deliver that market strategy, and we have her ability we have her as an asset in delivering this care experience to our clients. Thank you so much, Crystal. We really appreciate you coming through.
Thanks, Taylor. Happy to be here.
Cheers. All right. Well, thank you so much. We really appreciate that. All right. We're just bringing some teammates back in here. We're going to have everybody here, but I'm just going to skip back to our other screen because we really appreciate you guys tuning in to 5-Star Builder Experiences. And that's what we're talking about here tonight, is how can you, I'm going to slide right in there over that great prize, but how can you make sure that your home, your brand new, never been lived in home is a great experience? And if you want more information on this, okay, so I'm having some challenges here with our Zoom and getting our teammates back in here. It appears that Doro is back in, but we got Doro and just myself. So interesting. I think that I can't reverse that. We may end up coming back through on phones. When I remove people from the Zoom, we end up having a little bit challenge. So please bear with us. I'm not sure that I can change that situation. Well, I will hold down the fort here and make sure that we get, we're going to get some, look at these guys adapt. We're getting some people coming in on phones now. Video experience is a big part of our experience. A lot of people don't know that. We're getting some people to connect here. I think that we're going to get Tony and Kim back. Kim's coming in.
Howdy.
Nice work. Thank you.
Hello.
All right. You guys are amazing. So it turns out when I get rid of you all from the screen share screen so that it cleans it up, it locks you out. So good to note. All right, so what we're talking about, so we just finished talking with Crystal Mansher of Flair Mortgages, just great at taking care of people. It was really awesome to hear Darren's insight on the different types of mortgages. And now let's talk about those experiences, because show homes are an interesting place. And what I mean by that is that from the outside, they look like a retail store, but they're actually a little bit more like a car dealership. Like when you go in there, you're going to share a little bit about yourself with someone, and that person is either going to use that information to help you or use that information to help themselves to you. And we've seen that experience. We just had Crystal share that she wished that she had approached her build in a little bit more of an aggressive way, given what she found out about the market since she started building. And the same thing with us is we're actually pretty surprised sometimes with what we see going from show home to show home. And in that case, I think that the hardest question in real estate is this. Now that you love it and you can afford it, how much should you pay? So Kim, you're standing with clients when they're given this question all the time. So now you've been through the process. You understand what those clients want to build. And what they probably know a little bit of is your regular workday where you've called other builders, found out what you could do, made sure that, that we've already narrowed it down and ruled out other possibilities. And now you're zeroing in on a specific build. So they give us a quote, right? Like they end up saying, hey, if this is what you want to build, here's how much it costs. Right? Yeah. And then we sit down, we look at the sheet of paper and we sign it, right?
Yeah.
No.
Oh no, sorry. No. I'm
just playing with you. Look at that. I'm sorry, I sucked you in there. That is actually an experience that consistently happens in builds.
Yeah.
Is they slide the sheet of paper across and without any further information, the people sign. And they sign. Yeah. Could you imagine walking into McDonald's and saying, hey, what do you think I should eat today? Like if all of your information on nutrition was by the people that were selling you the food? That's kind of an interesting setup. So when you walk in and they slide that sheet across, what are your next steps, Kim?
Well, we go back like just like any other, whether it's a new build or a previous owned home, we go back and do all our market research. Just like we do, we find out what other properties similar, the characteristically have been selling for. And in this one circumstance, I actually had found the exact builder home from previous sales and had comparisons to that, what they sold for. So yeah, we do the whole market research. And
so wait a second, you were saying that you were doing your market research. So we go through and we find out all the available public information as well as the information that we compile, right? So we have everything from what the municipality thinks to the legal title. We have all the information on how much sells in that neighborhood. We actually even know how many buyers per month appear in that price point. So we know how confident our opponent is going to be. Mm-hmm. And in that research, you found examples from the same builder?
Yes,
and they were a very similar model?
Very.
And they were in the same neighborhood? So obviously they were for the same price, right?
No.
What do you mean? You said they were the same. They were the same, different?
Very different, yes. So we had
So in a percentage,
examples.
What would you say that difference would be? Like 1% difference, right? Like on a $700,000 house, $7,000 difference?
No.
Okay, so it's going to be, all right, it wouldn't be more than 5%, like $35,000 on a $700,000 house?
Yes.
It was more than that?
Mm-hmm.
You're not saying that it would be close to 10%.
It sure was.
So if they would have just slid that sheet across and that lady would have signed,
mm-hmm.
she would have lost $70,000?
Yes.
Wow. So
not knowing.
Obviously that's a 5-star review, right? Like everybody out there who thinks, oh, if I don't bring a realtor, I don't bring another mouth to feed, so I'm going to be fine. That's only if we're zero value. Did you know that? The only reason that you would ever, like, we would cost more than we do is if we were zero value. That's a harsh burn. Tony, we were talking about going to one show home, but maybe not just stopping at one, right? Tell me a little bit about what you've seen.
Yeah, we've had some good success in the last couple of months where we had clients that knew exactly what they were looking for. So we took down their wanted list and we effectively shopped it across the other show homes that were like neighboring to each other in the same neighborhood. Walked from one to the next, and basically got all the pricing that we needed to, asked all the questions that we knew that we had to, even some that our clients didn't even know we should be asking.
Pause there for a second, just 1 second.
Mm-hmm.
So you found out all the information, right? Now, Doro, you were mentioning that you go through a few builders and you can normally reduce the number of floor plans to a handful, like maybe a dozen, right?
Sure.
But they don't build them all the same. Are there changes?
There actually is changes. You can, although they're all the same, like you get the typical floor plan where you have your open living space and maybe you have a den, but then what about the full bath you want? And what about that bedroom you want on the main floor?
Oh yeah, like the office conversion we see in those 2,400 square foot 2-stories, where instead of the office now, there's some people that want their parents to live with them, so they turn that into an ensuite, like a second master. Tony, you did one of those this year, hey? So what you're saying is that these ones, like the ones that they show you, are just kind of a start, but you can make variations. So if you were to go to one builder and they were to give you some selections and you were to make variations, could you not make something very similar to any other builder?
You absolutely can.
So Tony, you took all of that information and put it in that Mat Excel so you could see feature for feature, one step by one step, exactly the same apples to apples. And you walked into one builder, and what was the first quote?
Yeah, our first quote was at the high 500 range, so close to 600,000.
Wow. And so when your clients got that number, were they excited to buy that place? Because they'd been looking at some resale places too, right?
Yeah, they were not so excited about that price based on what we've seen in the market.
So they thought that basically for that price, they wouldn't build a house. They'd go and buy something available because there were better deals out there.
Mm-hmm.
So then if there's better deals to be had out there, when you did your market research, what did you see?
Yeah, when we looked at what was available on the market previously based on where things sold, that same house was effectively selling around 525.
Wait a second, you said close to 600.
Mm-hmm.
But Kim's example was way more expensive, and this place is almost $75,000 out of whack.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what did you do?
So after negotiations didn't go too far with very little of a counter from the builder, we went next door to the next builder, built the exact same house. In fact, we actually got an extra bedroom and an extra bathroom with a full ensuite upstairs, and we wrote the same offer because it was basically the same house, and we got it accepted at our 525.
Okay, you did that, but you probably, all right, so this isn't true. This is another carnival game, right? You're going to tell me that you did get it that much cheaper, but it was way in a different it was like in a different neighborhood. You're telling me that this one was in Upper Windermere and you helped somebody go out and buy in Maple.
Absolutely not. We pretty much got the exact same lot they wanted, backing onto the ravine, and it was just a different name on the builder paperwork.
Wait a second, so it was the same street?
Mm-hmm.
They're backing onto the same ravine? They must have the worst view. Do they have a worse view of the ravine?
No, it's slightly better, actually.
Same view, same build, or same end result. And from what we can see from the MLS system, an unidentifiable resale advantage from builder to builder, because nobody even knows who built them once they've been around for a while. So in that case, you just saved these people a ton of money. That's good family business, man. I bet you these people were super stoked.
Yeah, they couldn't believe it when we told them that their offer was accepted.
Man, there's one more story that I want to share. I wasn't even going to put this in here. I know we're 3 minutes late. I got to apologize to Tim, but we're coming. I don't know that people know this, but sometimes we cut checks. So on occasion, there's builders out there that may not cut a better deal to the consumer, but they're saying, hey, realtors, you need a bonus? We got a bonus. And that's not how we roll, right? Like we don't accept anything less than what we charge, but we also don't accept anything more than what we charge. Hey, Tony. Hey, Kim. What's the biggest check you've seen us sign here in bonus that we signed over to a client? 10 bucks?
10,000.
$10,000. Probably the first time, wasn't it? Well, that's what it takes, I think, to be the #1 highest rated and reviewed team on rankmyagent.com. Thank you guys for coming back in. We are now going to talk a little bit more about what we were talking about earlier. I can't help myself. I want to do it again. Are you guys want to see it again?
Let's see it.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is just too weird. This is too weird for me. I got to go over here. At a home inspection, build year of this house is 2020.
Crazy. Hey, there's a lady named Heather tuning into the live stream, and she said that happened to her when she took possession, except her master ensuite was over the kitchen.
Oh, rough. So she was already in there. So that means when they took apart her kitchen, she had to live there. That's rough. Well, thank you, Kim. You know what the big thing is? When those clients experienced that, they were standing next to you. And you were standing there with the licensed home inspector that could tell them there's nothing else wrong. They weren't standing there on their own at night, waiting for a builder response team with their stuff soaked, just having moved, wondering what else is wrong with my house. Mm-hmm. Well, thank you guys for coming in, and we're going to bring in Tim. This is Tim Harris. He's from North 49 Home Inspections. So a lot of people don't really talk about these types of things, about brand new homes, giving home inspections, but we do. And the reason that we talk about it is that exact same reason that we were just showing, which is sometimes these do not result in what we're looking for. Sometimes we get a negative result. And we want to make sure that we cover our clients and ensure that they get a great experience, because that's what we're talking about when we talk about 5-star builder experiences. We're here to make it right. I haven't seen anything. I haven't seen everything, but I sure have seen a lot. And one of the things that I've seen is I saw somebody take their mom to go see a foundation that they had just poured on a Wednesday. They had already seen it on a Thursday, and they go back on Sunday to show mom, and the foundation's gone. What do you do at that point? Holy man, the foundation's gone. How do we deal with this now? Well, we are running a little, oh no, we're right back on this. I'm 1 minute behind. Sorry, Tim. Let's bring him in. This is Tim Harris from North 49. Tim, do you got your video? You got a handle on your video? It should be in the bottom left to start video.
Yeah, you got it there.
Hey, Tim, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good to see you. I really appreciate you coming on to video. I know that video is this thing that entered in 2020, whether you liked it or not. And and everybody that we deal with is often adapting really well. So I really appreciate you coming on video here. Where you would normally find Tim is like in an attic somewhere, like where our team normally sees Tim is in behind somebody's furnace. By the way, if you guys are getting a home inspection, I just want to give you a note in ahead. Please clear out your mechanical rooms. Please, for Tim's sake, clear out your mechanical rooms. The guy needs to see your hot water tank. You guys are hiding it behind the Christmas decorations, and that's not cool. So Tim, prior to being a home inspector for North 49, you have a crazy experience when it comes to home construction. Like, you were a construction manager for a home building company. Like, you must have superheroes as a home inspector. You've seen it all come together. You know where the Friday stuff gets missed, and that's where you start your home inspections. Like, how does this work?
Yeah, no, I've been through them all. I think I was an estimator, I was a superintendent, I was a construction manager, so just working my way up the chain in the home building, and got into home inspections and absolutely love it.
So since you've seen the other side, people actually endeavoring to bring an experience as a home builder. Like, I know when you were a site supervisor and a home building manager, you were trying to deliver that experience to the clients, right?
Yeah.
But why does this stuff come off the rails? Like why can't they just make perfect houses?
Human error. It's a ton of things. It's
But you guys are
weather's a
working
big.
like indoors in like climate controlled environments, right? With your slippers on.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, it's that, and communication's a big one. I mean, it's across the board. There's some guys that communicate really well and some that don't, and it's an easy thing to lose track of.
Yeah, and everything's got to run on time. So as soon as something gets missed, if it's not known, all of a sudden other trades come in and it starts to back up the project and change the project. And then sometimes people are trying to get things done in order to meet those deadlines because they do catch them, but they catch them at the nick of time, right? Like we saw the ceiling come apart in a garage because the ensuite tub had totally let go into the ceiling above the garage.
And it's all, a lot of it's about teamwork too. If you've spent the time and built your team with trades and they communicate amongst themselves, you're one step ahead of the game. Where you fall down a lot of the time is the trades don't talk to each other. They don't know each other. They're there to do a quick job. They miss something. The next guy comes in, doesn't care, doesn't know, doesn't talk, and it just snowballs from there. So
we hear about these things, but just to dig in a little bit, like a lot of people, I think that they see home builders just like you would see a car company. Like your muffler on a Toyota was installed by somebody that works for Toyota. You're saying that that's not the case with home builders?
Well, there's so many different trades and there's so many different guys, and
but are they employees of that home builder?
No, not necessarily. I mean, you're looking at
do they always work there, and were they trained by that place so that they can deliver the same quality all the time?
No, you'll general contract, so you'll contract out the work, and those guys are revolving. So you'll get trades that work for different companies, and they go to different companies every year. You're lucky to get a trade company that has the same guys for a certain amount of time that know you and know your product and know what you expect, and that's the biggest thing.
So it sounds like that's what you were looking for on the build side. Is you were looking to put together a known team, like a group that puts a house together, like they care about each other even. So that the drywall guy and the electrician can coordinate instead of have conflict. And I think that would probably deliver better results. But now as a home inspector, you step over to the other side of the coin. So you walk into a new build. Is there anything that is consistently suspect? Is there anything that you're just like, man, this is always wrong?
It's you always look for the same things. Like I'm always looking for leaks. I'm always looking for electrical issues. I'm looking at the finishing. I'm always looking at the same suspects. Some builders are amazing at nailing those and getting that house ready for the customer and checking that stuff. And some are always one step behind. So, I mean, that's where we come in, is we go in and look and check all those things to make sure they're up to snuff.
Well, I like the idea that you know what order it's assembled in. So if you see something that may be like, it's almost like following a yarn where you're like, oh, if this wasn't done, that likely means that this wasn't done. That likely means that over here's not finished either. That's cool coming from your experience. What else would you want someone to know? Like we see some people that are like, oh, I don't need a home inspection. It's new. Having so much experience, if you were getting into a brand new build tomorrow, do you think that you would just let it happen, or how would you approach it?
Knowing what I know and seeing what I've seen through home inspections, I would hire a home inspector. The only reason why is I think it's more important before you take possession, when the builder has the home done. Just because we run the systems, I mean, we're looking for things that you can't see and may not see happen for 3 to 6 months after. Say water leaks, like we'll run all your systems and then we use our equipment to determine whether it's leaking or not. And if we can see it, we've saved a big headache. If not, it's going to sit there and leak for however many months till your ceiling falls down. So those are the things.
So you're looking for some things that might add up. Now, I got a question, because I know that when you guys go for a home inspection, your fingers are on everything. You open every door, you open every window, test every single electrical outlet. Like there's 2 in one receptacle, and I see you guys hit them both. And so I know that you touch everything. And having been on the home building side, is there any single member of a home builder that touches everything the same way a home inspector does?
I mean, yeah, I'm not gonna say builders. There aren't good builders that do that stuff. I mean, when I was a site super way back when, we had a process that we would follow, and we would try to do that. But again, it's human error. I mean, guys miss things happen, schedule crunch.
Because I would wonder if, like, you know, if you were looking after several teams, you might spot check things. You might be like, oh, I checked 6 windows in this house and 6 different windows in this one. But I know when you show up for a home inspection, you're so focused, you test every single window.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we test every window, every plug. We're looking at everything. We test every tap, every faucet, every toilet, everything. But we have a small window, and we have a set process that we follow. So we do one thing after the other always, and every house, no matter whether it's new or old. So we're accustomed to doing that process. Whereas when you're looking after 10 houses, that gets out of control. You can't do that all the time.
Yeah. Like, to think about spending like that focused 3-hour home inspection in one house as a site supervisor for a major builder, I think is an unrealistic ask.
Yeah. And that's where that teamwork comes in the trades. If the trades are rolling and you've got a good team behind you, a lot of that stuff gets picked up by them that you don't even know about. But if it doesn't, that's when mistakes happen. Yeah,
some of the stuff I see isn't like tragic. Some of the stuff I see is just like nuisance. Like, you know, we missed 2 panels of insulation on this exterior wall.
Yep.
Like, nobody ever comes back for that stuff unless there's a real symptom. It's just always cold there. It's miserable.
Well, and that's part of the problem. I mean, if you take possession and then realize 2 months after you've got some issues, and whether they're big or they're small, get the builder back and the hassle it takes to get them to come in and fix it properly, where we may have the opportunity to find that a week before you take possession and have them fix it, eliminating that frustration.
See, I know that there's some builder contracts. Like, we're going to talk to Sean Warshawski he's a lawyer that specializes in builders later, and he's going to talk about how we're going to talk about builder contracts. Some of them actually do not allow a home inspection. So that's something that people should be watching for, because I don't know why you would want not to have a home inspection. Like, why would you write that in your contract?
Well, I think maybe, you know, they're worried about finding things that may not be included in their contract that we would say as a general scope. Like, we would make comments on shoddy finishing or shoddy flooring or what the case is, and they take offense to that a little bit, because that's what their standard spec is. That's what they've sold. They don't want to have the hassle of us coming in and saying all these things are wrong, but really they're not.
Wait a second, hold on. So you, getting a real understanding of what normal is, are going to write in your report, hey, listen, this isn't normal. And they're going to say, no, this is our normal.
Potentially, yeah. Like, if I see finishing work that isn't sufficient, like open gaps.
Yeah, we all know what deficiencies look like, because we've seen good work. And we're not saying good work, we're saying this is finished or this is unfinished. Like, it's a binary element, right? And the other thing I think a lot of people don't understand is there's no pass or fail for this stuff. It's not like this house failed a home inspection. It's like, these are the issues associated with this house, because there's no house that's perfect.
Yeah, and that's right. We'll come in and we're not going to tell you whether to buy the house or not. We're just going to comment on what we see and whether there's stuff that's missing or what we see.
Well, man, if I was a home inspector, I would want somebody who's been on the other side. I know that if I had you come in through as a home inspector to a brand new build, you're going to look at that with accuracy, but you're also going to understand what is normal. You have a realm of experience to say, this is within the variation. You know what? Like, when you're looking at paint, the agreement will normally say that you got to be a few feet away. You can't be up against that. Like, that's not how people view large walls of paint. There is a standard that needs to be followed, but outlining that standard in advance is key. I don't think enough people know about that. Now, there's one group that I want to talk to that may feel as though the ship has sailed for them. So let's say that it's October right now, and you just took possession during this year's build possession season, which is normally kind of runs from like, I would say like April until September here. And so in that kind of run, if you've already taken possession of a house, I want you to know it's not too late. Because up until you submit your deficiencies list, you could still have a home inspection that helps you identify issues to put on your deficiencies list. I'm not going to know if there's missing home inspection or if there's missing insulation. But honestly, if Tim comes by with an infrared camera, he's going to know. And so, so I want more people to know that if you've already taken possession of your house and you're saying, man, I got to submit my deficiencies list, what would be the smartest way to do that? I would say write it with an expert. Because if they say the insulation is fine here, you could be like, want to see the images? So I would want more people to do that.
That makes a lot of sense. I was in a house just the other day that they had I think it's a 3-year problem now, and they've had numerous guys from the building company come in and say the problem's fixed. And I went up in the attic today and found out why it was still a problem, and it was just a case of the guys not going up there and looking deep enough to find out what the problem. They're just throwing all sorts of fixes at what they think it might be instead of actually determining what that problem is.
So am I hearing you right? When they heard that there was a problem and they sent somebody they thought could deliver a solution, not somebody who could investigate the problem?
Yep, and that's not an uncommon thing for us to go in at year end as well, after the customer's been in the home for a year, because they do have problems and there is a communication breakdown as to why it's not getting fixed. So we'll go in and determine if there is an issue there.
Well, I really appreciate you sharing with us today. Thank you so much for bringing this insight in. And people can get in touch with Tim Harris very easily. He's North 49 Home Inspections. We have his link in our event here. He's also on our trusted expert list. And that way we can make sure that you get in contact with somebody who can make sure that you're getting what you paid for. Let's be honest. That's kind of what we're looking for here. So thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate it. We look forward to seeing you on our next time, because we're really looking for home inspectors that help us dodge bullets, not guys that say yes. We want somebody to come out of that and say, listen, there's something that we got to talk about there. And Tim is one of those people. That's why he appears on our trusted expert. Thank you so much, Tim Harris from North 49.
Thanks for having me.
All right, and as we continue through our 5-star builder experience, that's basically what we wanted to achieve today, is to talk more about what makes the experience great. And what makes the experience great is having other experts that can help us. Have other experts that can make sure that you get an excellent experience in your next build, especially for those people, like we all know that it's sweet. We know that getting those brand new, never been lived in houses is awesome. And that's something that we help people do all the time. Now we're going to be bringing you some new insight here as I shift in and let in Jennifer Brown Flowelling. So Jennifer is joining us. She has, now, am I saying your company right? Is it JB Design? Oh, there. Can you see? Are you muted? There we are. Hi, Jennifer. I think your mic might be muted.
There we go.
There you are. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Look how Halloween-y your space is.
I know.
Trust the like, you've got a lot of titles. I know that just to give some perspective here. So I was am I saying it right? Is it JB Designs?
JE Design.
JE Design. My apology. And so JE Design. So when we're talking to you, we're talking about a lot of things, and basically anything visual. So am I hearing you right, where you are technically a residential transitionist?
Yes.
You hold a home staging license.
Mm-hmm.
You do interior design?
Yeah. Product selection.
And also window coverings.
Yes, absolutely.
Did I hit them all?
You got them all.
So that's like a one-stop shop. So if somebody was not looking to build, if they were like, hey, I want to make my current place awesome, Jennifer could help you rebuild the inside.
Yeah.
Like the really, if you wanted the selection center to come to you, that's what we're talking here. We're talking everything in the market coming over to you so that you can have that great experience when it comes to these things. And that's what I wanted to talk a little bit about today. I really appreciate Jennifer's got a contest running in our private event, and she is giving away an XL soy candle, 2 custom resin coasters, a bottle of wine, and a custom made resin wine bottle holder. So that's going to be a cool, that's kind of a cool accent piece for the upcoming holiday season.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think that was a real big win. Thank you so much for doing that, and good luck to whoever's going to win that contest. Now, we were talking about you being a selection center, so I really want your take on selection centers. So as we go through the build experience, we've negotiated our agreement at the show home. We are talking about construction. We had a home inspector. But during this process, once you've kind of chosen what you're going to build, they're going to talk to you about the finishings, right? They're going to have you into the selection center. And I think that more people should know that not everything needs to come from there. Like
No,
you may
absolutely.
feel like you're already at IKEA, so you can grab a few things, but you're not at IKEA. This is expensive. the selection center is known as like the candy store of builds, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so first off, if you find going to the selection center intimidating, like let's say that you're already in progress, you didn't get to see this event, you didn't get to know about the highest rated and reviewed real estate team on rankmyagent.com, and you just went out this on your own, well, you could still bring Jennifer with you. She'd be like your superpower. You could, you're available as a consultant. You could go right to the selection center with them, right?
Absolutely. Love to do that. For sure.
And that would be a different perspective because, you know, we were just talking about all the skills that you've developed and the accolades that you have had in helping our clients. Like we had a place that we sold earlier this year. It was like, it was a duplex. And when we were sitting down with this client, I was talking about where the record was for the neighborhood. And it was one of those things where you had already, like, we already knew that this place was going to show like an 11 out of 10. We already knew that we could drive all the marketing there. So really we're looking across the table and saying, so do you want to shoot for it? Let's take a swing. I think we can catch him. And that place was so good looking. Before they even talked to us about the offer on the house, they wanted to talk about furniture. They wanted to talk about buying some of the furniture. And I had to hold that off because I didn't want to sell your stuff.
I appreciate that.
So it looked awesome, but when we're talking about people with your skills, is that the people that work in selection centers? Are they,
not necessarily.
Are most of them licensed?
No, and most of them, you know, they may have packages together already. So the issue when you go to a selection center is you're just kind of getting what they've already put together, and sometimes that's done like by an interior designer. So it may make sense in the show home, but in the day-to-day living, it may not. Remember, when we're selling houses in a show home, they're going to put things that are open and airy, like a solar screen in a living room area, or maybe even in a bedroom, because that makes that space look bigger and larger and brings the outside in. But that doesn't necessarily do any favors if you're a shift worker, if you suffer from migraines, if you need to have a blackout shade in those windows. There's a lot of things that window coverings can do to enhance a person's life that isn't just the go-to. I mean, a lot of design centers will have maybe one or two manufacturing, where at Budget Blinds, we have 40 different vendors that we can choose from. We have a signature line second to none. So, I mean, that's when if you go to that center, either bring a specialist with you or get on a Zoom meeting, have a specialist go over some things with you. Because there's a lot of things when considering window coverings, I don't think people really take into account.
Right, because what you're saying is that the interior designer is looking at it from a visual standpoint, not function. And,
that's right. And the way
they're going to pick the blinds that look best in that place. But let's say that you move the position of that house. So let's say that you take the exact same house and all of a sudden you end up being the house at the end of a T intersection. So the lights are coming down the laneway at you all the time. Now that's something that interior designer never accounted for. They never accounted for the fact that every time you're sitting at dinner at this time of night, like it gets dark here early, that you're catching those lights off the roadway there. Or that maybe they're interrupting your sleep in some way by entering into your window. Now, these are the things that we tend to talk about with our clients. We break down things and let them know that value is based on location, characteristics, and what you specialize in within condition. And we also give them warnings. There was a property I once listed where they saw pillars on either side of their of the island in the show home, and they had to have them. The only problem is the island in their design of their house, because it had so many bedrooms, was 4 feet wide with two 10-inch pillars that ran to a 15-foot ceiling.
Oh, wow.
It looked like a pillar pedestal. In fact, they ended up having to change that to actually have somebody come into their brand new house that they had listed after a couple of years. They didn't know that they were going to sell. Life happens. And all of a sudden they have to bring this, and they didn't have any resale perspective.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's a tough one. So now, wait a second, like when we're talking about options or lack of options, if I was the one controlling all the options that you could see, I might change some things in ways that you don't know, right? Like we start taking a look at some lower price stuff, and then we look at some higher price stuff. And one of the places that you were mentioning that you saw it most was when people are choosing between flooring types, they should be getting more understanding of what the value of those are.
Yeah, it's interesting. I speak with clients and I'm typically talking with them on the window covering. So a lot of these options have already been made. And I know that the flooring that they have is a $2 luxury vinyl. Now, luxury vinyl, I love it. It's great. But a $2 luxury vinyl does not replace a solid hardwood flooring, not on material, not on cost of installation. It's just, there's some people that really and truly need an expert to just give them a few hints and to let them know where their money and their dollars are best spent.
Okay, because that's something that doesn't really make sense on the bill. Because sometimes what we see is that when somebody changes from putting hardwood in a house because they're worried about taking care of it, maybe they have dogs, maybe they have kids, that's normally the reason that they go away from hardwood. The other thing is sometimes it makes them nervous to take consideration into the humidity level in their house all the time. Like if you have a family, I think that more older people tend to go to hardwood and actually take care of it well, but it does take more maintenance. And I have vinyl and I love it. I got dogs, I got kids, we don't worry, right? Like you could ride a bike through our house and it's fine. However, it's not the same price. And a lot of the time
all
when we see the
vinyl
bill,
are not equal.
well, the thing is that sometimes the install price doesn't even change.
Yeah.
Is it the same work to install luxury vinyl as it is to install hardwood?
No, absolutely not.
Nowhere near.
Yeah, no, none of it.
So in that case, I find that this is something that really mimics the car industry, where they have you in the business office. You already bought a car, and now they're just going to talk about warranties and protection kits. And you've already bought it. There's not like you're going to shop around for protection kits, but did you know what? You could. You could actually go and get undercoat from the place they buy it from. Amazing. You could do that right here in Edmonton. And that's something that I want more people to know, because I actually did really well in the car industry. I worked for some pretty high-end car companies even when I was quite young. And I have siblings and cousins and friends that have brought me to car dealerships with them. It's a different experience. And imagine walking into a selection center when maybe the person presenting you the options only knows the options they've been trained on. Not all of the options. Maybe they know the 2 vendors that give that builder window coverings. Did you say 40?
40.
40 different providers plus their full selections?
Mm-hmm.
So that would be a very different experience. And if I'm only giving you 5 options, what I know, if I was looking to stack the deck, is that I'm going to give you the cheapest option out there that's of really low value. I'm going to show you a very expensive option, and you're going to choose one of the 3 in the middle, and I need to make sure there's a lot of profit there. You can rig this game. It can really turn into a carnival show. And having somebody with you that says, hey, see the way they move this cups? The marble's not even there anymore. That's sometimes what it takes.
Well, and your window coverings are a huge investment just for one of the things, right? And you're looking at a 10 to 15 year investment into your property, and you are going to potentially be using them every day. Going back to a car, I mean, you can buy a Ford Focus or you can buy an Alexa. At least if you're buying an Alexa, let's get all the bells and whistles.
Absolutely. And I think that that's the case too. Like, you should get what you paid for is the moral of this story, right? So if you are already in the home building process, I want you to know that Jennifer Brown Flewelling is on our trusted expert list. You can find her for window coverings, but you can use her for everything. If you want to know how something is visually, she is the one-stop shop. So anything that you need inside, if you're looking at bringing your house to the market, you want to put that extra oomph, we know who to call. Right? We know that if you're in hot competition, you might need some extra jam. And if they walk through your living room and they can feel like they love it, it really irons out a lot of other things when it comes to competition. So if you're looking for those types of advantages or for some perspective on spaces that you already have, I think you should call Jennifer Brown Flewelling, and that is JE Design. JNE Design? Am I saying it right now? Did I get it right?
J&E, yeah.
J&E. I want to make sure, but I don't have to remember this stuff. You don't need to rely on me. You can rely on our trusted expert list and then rely on who we rely on. So thank you so much for coming in and talking to us a little bit about what happens in these places. The one thing that I don't think a lot of people understand, and the one thing I want to close with, is this question. They got rid of the stringy things on blinds. Tell me about it.
Oh, this is my favorite. So it truly is. It changes the way that you run your window coverings. It truly does. So if you're doing a build or you're doing a renovation, the best thing you can do for yourself is make sure you have power at that window. Things we want to be able to do that. We can do an aftermarket and change them out and have batteries, but if it's direct mount and all tied in, it can change your world. But when you drive up, your window coverings, your lighting can come on, everything. You can have Friday night. It's definitely the way of the future, as we are looking at the Canadian is we're not going to be manufacturing any window coverings with strings in the next couple of years. So it's the way of the world. We need to go there. We don't roll our windows down in our cars anymore. We don't need to use strings on our blinds anymore.
See, I love home automation. And so just to recap what you were saying is in all of your designer build plans, make sure that you have power run by the electrician that allows for hardwired blinds, because if you got those lovely high ceilings, you don't want those lovely high ladders. Changing batteries in window coverings will suck. If you think it's bad for the smoke detector now, it's going to be brutal. So think ahead, because that way you can turn your house from night to day. You can turn you can change your atmosphere with the touch of a button. And what they're worried about is children. So those drawstrings cause all kinds of problems. There are pets and kids that it really puts in danger, because really, when you think about it, you're kind of hanging a string that would support body weight with loops in it. Right? Like there's a lot of things that are a little sketchy there. So I understand that they're going to catch on to all this stuff. We're going to hear about other build spec changes, but thank you so much for bringing us up to date on how window coverings are changing totally universally. So get ready and don't be the person stuck with batteries. Thank you, Jen. We really appreciate you, and we will be in touch with Jennifer Brown-Flewelling from J&E Design. Have an excellent night.
Thanks so much. Take care, guys.
All right, this is Taylor. This is Hack & Company at RE/MAX River City, and we've got questions that are coming in. So I know that Emily texted me a little bit. I think it was when the home inspector was actually on here, but I'm having trouble navigating everything at once. And what it was is a question in general about home inspections, and we really appreciate Amelia Lung for this question. What she was saying is, I have a friend from Ontario who hired an inspector, and the inspector said that the house did not have knob and tube wiring. Fast forward a year, and then the friend wanted to add some lights, and the electrician said the whole house is knob and tube. Does this and could this happen? So in that case, what you would want to do is basically call the lawyer. That's the person that's going to be able to tell you this more than a home inspector, because it's going to be dependent on a few things. One, is there damages incurred? Two, is this a misrepresentation in the actual home inspection report? Because there could be insurances available to you. Home inspectors, just like realtors and lawyers, have errors and omissions insurance if they're operating as actual legitimate companies like we do. And that's why we have trusted experts to make sure that those protections are taken, but more so to make sure that the training is followed early on so that you don't run into circumstances like this. So I've got a couple of things poking around on my waiting room here. I have an iPhone and Shane's iPhone. I thought Sean was next. I'm not sure exactly who's coming onto this live stream, but I believe we have Sean Warshawski. I'm going to admit this. I think he's on his phone and see what's happening. I might just have let in a stranger. Is this a Zoom bomb? Do we have anybody? Is somebody going to be on here? Sean? Sean is connecting to the audio. And we actually had a couple of different logins, and now we have Sean Warshawski. His audio is working now. I'm glad that we have a waiting room here. Looks like there's more people that would like to present than are actually presenters. Maybe technical difficulty. Sean, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Sean Warshawski, you are coming to us live from St. Albert right now?
That is correct. Live from the 4th floor of the beautiful Grandin Tower.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for tuning in with us. You are a lawyer that we work with very regularly. So we see you, I bet you Tony calls you, what, twice a week?
Sometimes, yeah. Yeah.
And
absolutely.
every time he calls you, everything's fine, right?
And I always have the perfect answer.
Well, we know you have the perfect answer. That's why we call you. We don't have the perfect answer. So thank you so much for helping us, because we often have a whole bunch of things that we need you to help with. And part of it is understanding what we are executing. So Sean Warshawski is with Ritson Warshawski LLP. You can find them in St. Albert. And really, when it comes down to what I do in real estate, I'm like the prep chef for Sean. So Sean's going to have to make what I do real, or be where the rubber hits the road. Now, I'm trained, but only in very specific things. A lot of people don't know this. I have very specific training towards contracts in general, but specifically the purchase contract that would be for the provided by the Alberta Real Estate Association. So when we're out there in the marketplace trading in resale real estate, we have one purchase agreement that we all use. And am I calling it right, Sean, when I say that that was probably written by hundreds of lawyers and reviewed by thousands since then?
Written, rewritten, and certainly reviewed by thousands of lawyers. It's a contract that every lawyer works with because it's the one that 99% of all our transactions are going to use. The contract, it's not a perfect contract, but the really nice thing is it doesn't really favor either the buyer or the seller. And so we can use it, and we know that everybody's going to be on the same page with it. It's got certain protections for the buyer without making it too onerous on the seller, and certain things that maybe the buyer would want there that aren't, just because it would make it too onerous on the seller to complete the transaction. So yes, the
it is
area
like
contract,
the general convention. So basically, after doing like thousands and thousands of transactions in Alberta, they basically said a reasonable buyer and a reasonable seller won't agree on everything, but they can agree on these 7 pieces of paper that allow them to trade in a house for money. And when you say that they're rewritten and reviewed, every time something is challenged in court where somebody gets hurt related on the purchase agreement, it can be amended, right?
well, and that's why you do often see different versions of the contract. I'm not sure what the most recent one is, but there was a fairly major rewrite of it a couple of years ago.
I remember that. Actually, it was kind of confusing because I know that when we get an old contract, we reject them. We will not accept a purchase agreement submitted on one of our listings on a non-current contract, because what it means to me is those protections that you just mentioned, the ones that are designed by a regulatory board specifically to make equality between buyers and sellers, that stuff's missing. It's missing pieces when you use old stuff. But speaking of that, when you use that as like the standard practice, as you were saying, 99% of the transactions, and then we were to say, okay, if we use that as the standard of practice, and then over here we place a builder agreement, is that written by a regulatory board?
No.
Is it written to create, to promote equality between buyers and sellers?
Certainly not. You just have to look at who paid for that contract to be developed.
Okay,
it wasn't
so
the regulatory board, it was the builder who paid their lawyer to prepare that contract. And who do you think the contract is going to favor? Well, the person who paid the lawyer.
okay, so if we were describing the other contract as being what maybe there's a reasonable buyer and a reasonable seller in the marketplace and they're not going to agree on everything but this, that's not the case here. That's saying that a builder thinks that a buyer that walks into the show home that doesn't get any more information than that will accept this contract without dispute.
Well, they're certainly hoping you do.
And so that's something that we see that's a little bit confusing, because often, like, the most common experience that I've heard of in building is somebody goes without their own lawyer.
Yes, it does happen, and there's reasons for that. Mostly the builder's trying to incentivize you to purchase from that builder. So they're saying, don't use your own lawyer. We're going to save you a couple grand worth of legal fees and disbursements, or $1,000, because you're still paying the disbursements on it usually. To use our lawyer, the only issue there is anytime a lawyer acts for more than one party in a transaction, there's an inherent conflict. The lawyer being paid by the builder, in most cases, will actually accept out any potential conflicts. So they're actually saying, we're just acting to complete this transaction. We're not acting for you as your lawyer. We're not protecting you. We're not taking any steps to protect you. We'll complete the transaction, but that's about all our involvement is on your behalf. Meanwhile, we are acting for the builder. The builder is the one paying us, and we're going to protect the builder.
So now what we would say is that with that groundwork, the buyer, if anything was wrong in the paperwork that they were reviewing, the lawyer has already agreed to say nothing. Is that right? Like they can't represent that client. So if something
Yeah, I
wasn't
mean,
legally wrong, but
I
just one way,
I
is
would
that
hope that most lawyers would in that situation probably say, hey, there's an issue here. You need independent representation,
okay?
especially where there's a mistake. I would hope so. I can't
So they're
speak
not
for
going to stand
everybody.
on the other table and just like roll off to the side here. But what the best thing that they could do is say, oh, you know what? You might want to go talk to somebody.
Yes.
But they would have to
That's
be in
what
the
the
room
lawyer would
long
say.
enough with you for that to take place.
Pardon me?
But they'd have to be doing a detailed review of this information and know exactly what you're looking for and what your original intended agreement was.
And they would have to actually have read it with your perspective in mind. And again, if there's a builder's lawyer who's not acting for you, who's just completing the conveyancing, that's not really top of their mind. They're just completing the transaction. So no, they're not necessarily going to point out every issue in it and then address every issue. Maybe they're not even aware of it because again, they haven't read it from the buyer's perspective.
And I see that. So if we were to make that more transparent, we would say if a builder's offering you legal services, they're not actually offering you legal services. They're offering you the avoidance in paying of legal services because you're not receiving a product.
That's an excellent summary in most cases, yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that we were recapping in a way that everybody understands, because if my cousin right now was engaging in a build, somebody I cared about, I would really say, listen, if anything was wrong, if you had someone like Sean sitting next to you when that took place, action would happen.
Yeah, and here's the real problem. By the time you actually get to that point, the ship has already sailed. So if you have clients who are purchasing a new build from a builder and are presented with a builder's purchase contract, the first step there is not to say, yes, we'll have our lawyer complete the conveyancing and they can also help you with that so you can avoid legal fees. Your first thing you should do is actually have that contract reviewed by your own lawyer. Because again, as you pointed out, the standard area contract is not used by most builders. And even if it is used by most builders, they generally have addendum schedules to it that change what's actually written in the contract. By the time you've signed that contract and removed your conditions, 99% of what a lawyer can actually do to help you, it's gone. That ship has sailed.
So you
You've
could
signed the
basically, so if you were in progress right now, like let's say somebody watching this, it's 8 o'clock right now, and tomorrow when the show homes open around noon, they're going in for their meeting, right?
Yeah.
All they would technically need to do if they were at that point is ask the show home person if they could have a condition to have the lawyer review and give a few business days. Now,
100%.
if somebody didn't already have their own lawyer, using the contact information from our trusted expert list, you could get in touch with Sean, you could send it over to him, and he would review that. And some of the things that you and I talk about when we talk about this stuff is like the difference between contracts that will provide a real property report and contracts that only provide title insurance.
Even if they even do provide title insurance, some of them don't even offer title insurance.
Okay, so now I'm going to lay the land here. So basically, if you wanted to look at a real property report and you thought like I did, you would describe it as a map drawn by someone who can only draw stickmen. That's kind of what it looks like. But what it is a survey that's drawn to the surveyor's handbook standards. So they measure things. They have a standard of measurement that is regulated. Then they submit that to the municipality. And the municipality looks at that and says, we can trust the measurements because they're from surveyors. And according to our standards, everything here is legit. The house is not in a space that the neighbors are going to have a problem with, or the municipality. Same thing with the driveway. You might not have decks and fences yet, and that's what people think about because that's where disputes often take place. But there's a very different thing. So what an RPR says is that everything is where it's supposed to be and compliant with the municipality. Now, you were saying that there's a lesser than version than that, which would be title insurance. So from a legal perspective, where do you see the difference between a real property report that says this is how it is and we can prove it versus the title insurance that we see often in the industry that basically says, hey, listen, if it happens, call us?
Exactly. One is, this is how the property exists today. The other is an insurance policy that says, if there's any issues with where the property sits, what's on the property, and whether it complies with municipal bylaws, well, you can bring a claim against the title insurance policy for any losses you might suffer as a result. And without trying to offend any insurance companies out there, insurance companies don't make money by paying claims.
I heard that you make money by collecting checks, not writing checks.
I've been doing this for over 10 years, and I've never actually dealt with a successful title insurance claim.
So you have dealt with title insurance claims, but never once has been paid out.
Never ones that have been paid out. And in fact, I've only actually ever dealt with, and I say dealt with, I wasn't the lawyer acting for the person trying to claim. I've just been in the vicinity of it and essentially been part of 2 in my entire career.
So they're not very common. And when they do take place, they're not looking good.
Well, there's also, just like any other insurance policy, there's all sorts of conditions and restrictions on what they cover and how they cover it. So unless you are an insurance lawyer, you're basically hoping that a piece of paper is going to protect you.
Right, because summarizing that, I guess, insurance companies will often say, here's an umbrella. However, anytime the humidity rises above 60%, we're going to need that back.
Or, so here's an umbrella. It's actually doesn't cover hail. It doesn't cover snow. It's only going to cover rain, but it's only going to cover you to the extent that you actually get wet. So if your shoes get wet, but that's not covered because your shoes aren't part of it, and you have to prove that there's actually a diminution in value to your shoes just for getting wet to make a claim on it. So there's all sorts of things they can do.
So they'll basically, so in my experience, a lot of the times their default position is to reject the first claim and then deal with it on follow-ups. But I'm not sure, and I'm not speaking about any specific insurance company. We're just talking in general. And honestly, we're just talking about opinions. Like, I think that it's fair to say that that insurance isn't everything that we would want it to be. I don't think that there is a product that would be anything that you'd want it to be as a consumer. But it's something that where I think that there's a discrepancy between what people think they're getting, what they're actually getting. So you make a really good point with saying that if you buy an umbrella that says only use on Wednesdays, you only get it on Wednesdays.
Yes.
So so with an RPR versus title insurance, you're saying that there really doesn't seem to be a lot of protection on the other side. And what I would suggest is that we would definitely want to see that these big structures have been at least checked once.
Yeah, so normally for new builds, oftentimes builders will actually supply one at the foundation stage. And so what we then do, because they're only going to supply one, they get one done at the foundation stage, so at least they know that, yes, at least the foundation is in place. And since they're only going to supply one, what we would ordinarily recommend to the client is they supplement it with title insurance. We know that your actual footprint of your building is appropriate. We know it's not built on the neighboring property. We know it's not built too close because somebody messed something up. So at least we know that's in place. And then if there are any additional issues, at least we're relying on the title insurance to protect us from smaller things, not literally your property's in the wrong place or your home is in the wrong place.
Because of the cost of title insurance, if it doesn't replace your shoes, it might still be good for the rest of your suit.
Exactly.
Gotcha. I think that that's a really good way to approach it. And a lot of people, when they're considering the cost of this, like, how much is title insurance?
It varies with the value of the property being purchased, but it's somewhere usually between $150 and $400. So it's not.
Wait a second. Yeah, like that's a pretty reasonable cost. I think that there's warranties on cars that are more money than that.
Oh, absolutely. But it's sort of like comparing apples to oranges. I mean, title insurance, like I said, is something that almost never gets a claim on, but it does serve some purpose. It can provide peace of mind, and more importantly, and most importantly from most people's perspective, is it allows deals to close on time. Mm-hmm. It allows lenders to be confident that they can lend knowing the title insurance is there to cover them for an issue like that. And then it allows buyers to actually complete and sellers to complete the transaction on time. Whereas otherwise, if they had to wait for an RPR and compliance, the transaction may be delayed, or there may be other issues with it. Or if we know that there's potentially a problem, they may wish to close it on title insurance. The only problem is, and I see a lot of realtors make this mistake, is they know there's something wrong with the property. The deck isn't compliant. So they say, we'll just get title insurance and that'll cover it. Again, title insurance is restrictive and it does not cover known defects. So you have to be very careful if you're relying on title insurance to close a transaction where you actually know that there is an issue with it.
That's really good perspective. I appreciate you sharing with that. That often is something that we, I think, goes unseen, meaning how much do we actually collaborate with other experts to make sure that our clients come out all right? Like we were just saying that one of our teammates probably talks to you a couple of times a week. And normally these are big question marks like, hey, I'm running into this. What's your perspective? Hey, I think I'm going to write an agreement that might look like this. What's your thought? Right? Yeah. And you've actually seen a lot of our team's work coming through.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Would you say that our standard of contract is decent?
In terms of, well, you guys use the area real estate purchase contract. So
yeah, but what I'm just saying is in general workmanship, when your experience on our team and other realtors, would you consider us to be below average, average, or above average in how we write?
Well, you guys come to me if you need specific terms written in. So I would say in that regard, you'd be above average. But again, that's making myself look good.
And that's a great answer. And that's exactly what we're talking about is that when we don't know, we know we don't know. We go to the guy who stands in front of all the diplomas and we ask good questions. And I hope that people felt like we asked good questions here, but we didn't get all the questions. And what they need to know is whether or not they're in process with a build right now, even if you already started, even if you didn't know to contact the highest rated and reviewed real estate team in the greater Edmonton area, then you could still work with Sean. You could still call him from our trusted vendors list and say, hey, listen, we're going to close in a couple of months here. Thank goodness I heard this information. My builder's been talking about RPRs like they're the cloud, like nobody knows what they are. And I don't believe in that. And that's going to be some things that they should share with you. And they may want to ask a little bit about that, a contract that they're about to sign. Like if you're going to meet with a builder this weekend, all you need to have is those magic little words that say, I have until next Wednesday at 9 p.m. to make sure my lawyer likes this contract, then you're set. Because that way you can find out if maybe they're not going to provide an RPR or title insurance, and who knows if your property's in the right spot. Maybe you don't know that. You were saying before that they can take the money before the house is done. Like when it's time to get the money, regardless of what's taking place, it's just cash call time.
Well, most of the builders' contracts will say that the purchase price is due on possession. The issue, though, is the house may not, or everything in the house may not be complete by possession. The biggest ones that I always see that are the biggest price tags are garages and driveways. So if you've got a $500,000 house that you've just purchased, but the garage and the driveway haven't been built yet, well, guess what? Most builders' contracts say you have to pay me the full $500,000 on possession, even though you won't have the garage and the driveway until spring because we can't pour the driveway in the wintertime. So you've paid all the money, but you don't get everything you paid for until the springtime.
Okay, so in most cases when this information is delivered, somebody is standing on their own. Because they walk into a show home, the only information they ever get on what's supposed to happen is from the people that are about to accept their checks. And then they go through the process, and the way this stuff is explained is though it's really wishy-washy, right? Like the way this stuff is often explained is, oh, seasonal. It's seasonal, you guys. We couldn't do it. It was seasonal. Yeah. But what they don't understand is that we wouldn't accept that if we were involved, because if I had somebody operating in resale, how would we be sure that they would ever do that, right? Exactly. In that case, we would normally be calling Sean and say, hey, Sean, there's no garage here. There's supposed to be a garage. If you want to look up this file, this is the value of the house. This is this, this is this. What do you suggest the holdback is? Now I'm going to pass it to you and say, can you summarize quickly what a holdback is?
Certainly. A holdback is an amount of money that's held by either the buyer's or the seller's lawyer until certain conditions have been met. So in the case I gave you, if we negotiated a holdback, we would say, okay, what's the reasonable cost of pouring that driveway and building that garage? Is it $30,000? Okay, so builder's lawyer, we're going to pay you the full $500 because that's what the contract requires us to do, but you're going to hold back $30,000 and only release it to the builder once the builder has completed the garage and the driveway. Now they get you on that too, because most builders' contracts will actually say, you are paying interest on the money until it is fully releasable to the builder. So even though I protected my $30,000 from going to the builder, And, you know, unfortunately, there have been some large builders who have gone bankrupt recently. But you're then paying interest on that money. And if you look at the standard Alberta Real Estate Association purchase contract, the interest rate payable is Alberta Treasury Branch Prime plus 3%. So these days, what's that, about 5% interest?
Yeah, it's definitely higher than what we'd see in most cases.
Builder contracts, it's usually 18%.
What?
So
That's
imagine
credit card
you're
time.
paying 18% on money you've already paid just to make sure that the amount you paid for the garage is not going to be subject to the builder disappearing into the night. And
Okay.
that's where I can look at it and go, this is not acceptable. We need to change this in the contract.
All right. And I want you to know that in most cases, a builder would be like, yeah, okay, fine. In most cases, if we returned and said our lawyer reviewed this and they didn't feel comfortable paying credit card interest if you guys don't do your job, right? Like we just didn't think that would be cool if the garage was on our credit card for a few months while you sorted your stuff out. So we don't know why you would ever write a clause in there that looked like that. It definitely isn't ever with our consideration in mind. And we had a lawyer to protect us.
Yes.
So that's the conversations that we want to come out of these things, because see how that's just different in the language? That's just stuff in the fine print. You know how you get out of reading this stuff? You pay somebody to do it. You pay somebody who's already gone through the training to understand these things deeply, and just make sure you don't hit any landmines, because what you're going to pay Sean is a fraction by comparison to what you experience if you don't. Like, we're really into prevention around here because cure sucks. We saw during a home inspection that we aired on this live stream that somebody had filled up an ensuite hot tub or an ensuite tub during a home inspection, and it failed, filling the garage full of water. If that was after you took possession, you'd be standing there alone right after you moved in, and that would have been on a garage full of your stuff. And standing alone, not knowing if everything's okay, is a really uncomfortable position, right? Or maybe the garage is not there and you have a classic car, and all of a sudden the builder says this, and on top of it, it's your fault and you have to pay more. Well, you know what? If you had Sean standing beside you at the beginning of that stuff doesn't happen here. Like a lot of people just don't understand what it takes to become the highest rated and reviewed. And it takes making sure the easy ones don't get biased. So thank you so much. We really appreciate how you protect our clients and how you protect us, because like, it's a lot of trust when we make the phone call and say, hey, listen, our reputation's on the line and you're the guy we call. So we really appreciate you accepting those phone calls. Thank you so much for coming on here. And if anybody wants to get in touch with Sean, it's Sean Warshawski. And that your law firm, just to make sure that I say it correctly, is Ritson Warshawski, LLP, and that's in St. Albert. And people can easily get in contact with you. We have your contact information readily available, and we can make sure that they get in touch.
Well, thanks very much. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here to chat with you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Have a great night, Sean.
You too.
All right. And as we wrap up, so I think effectively I have done things. I've made some choices that probably aren't so popular because I think I've excluded some of my teammates from being part of this call. Just the way that Zoom works in bringing people and bringing them out. I had not tried previously to bring them back in, and it turns out I just may have not those universal cosmic powers. So in closing the show, I think that the main thing that we want everybody out there to know is what their experience is worth. Because your relationship and going through a home build is normally months. When we take on those projects, we know we're going to be with your family for probably a year. And in those circumstances where you're not confident, we're here. And that's something that more people should understand. If you had a realtor with you on your last time, if you had them help you buy an existing property, you should really see what we do in these builder environments. Not all of us are created equal. So make sure that you know that you're dealing with people like us that train for this. We have experience in this. We work with experts that know this deeply. And we're here to make sure that you have a 5-star experience. This is Hack&Co Company at RE/MAX River City. My name is Taylor, and I am the proud leader of the highest rated and reviewed team on rankmyagent.com, the #1 team at RE/MAX River City. These guys here are awesome, and this could be your real estate team. We are Hack&Co Company, available at hackandcompany.com. Have a great night. Thank you so much for tuning into our live stream. Cheers.